Welcome back to our series of ongoing conversations with renowned policy commentator and global agro-business specialist, G. Chandrashekhar. I'm Dario Bard with the Global Pulse Confederation. Today, we're going to focus mostly on Rabi season pulse sowing. Chandra, it's always good to see you. I hope you and your family had a wonderful Diwali. Let's get started. The sowing of the Rabi season pulses is underway. Could you give us an idea of the time frame for the normal planting window? And tell us what seeding conditions are like in the major pulse growing areas.
Thank you, Dario. We had a great Diwali, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you and through you to the members of GPC at large. Thank you very much. Now, two key Rabi season pulse crops in India, as you and I know, are chana. We also call it gram. It's also desi chickpea. And the other one is masoor, which is lentil, red lentil. And therefore, we plant small acres of field pea also during the Rabi season. We have small quantities of urad, which is black mud pea, and of course also a little bit of moong. And we also plant some minor pulses, which are quite native to India, I must say. Therefore, typically, the Rabi planting starts when the land is cleared after the harvest of the kharif crop. Okay, and the timing of the planting for Rabi crop would depend on a number of factors. For example, the crop duration. Is the crop 90 days, 100 days, 110 days, 120 days, whatever? The crop duration is important. And also whether that crop is planted on irrigated land or non-irrigated land. That would also matter for farmers. For example, you take chana or desi chickpea. That matures in about 100 days, right? Or a little over 3 months, 3.5 months, in fact, you can say. While masoor, that is lentil, takes about 130 days, which is probably, about 4 months, a little over 4 months. And therefore, typically, Rabi sowing gathers pace from mid-October and lasts for about 4 weeks, occasionally even 5 weeks. And the soil moisture conditions are quite critical for Rabi planting. And therefore, this is the overall seeding condition as far as India is concerned this season.
Okay, and let's go to the official numbers, yeah? If you could run down the government's seeding and production targets for the Rabi season and give us your thoughts about that.
Oh, yes. The Indian Agriculture Ministry has actually fixed Rabi pulse crop target at 19 million tons, okay? And this comprises 13.5 million tons of chickpea, that is desi chickpea. And then, of course, we don't in India distinguish or segregate desi and Kabuli, etc. Everything is chickpea, basically. And therefore, 13.5 million tons of chickpea, that's the production target. And for lentil, that is masoor, there is no specific target as yet announced by the government. But my presumption, and I won't be surprised if the target turns out to be 1.5 million tons. Okay. But we also have a target of 1 million tons for black mud pea and 1.5 million tons for Rabi moong. Okay. And therefore, and the rest, of course, are minor pulses. For 19 million tons is a total production target, of which, let me repeat, 13.5 million tons is chickpea, 1.5 million ton is lentil, 1.5 million ton moong, and 1 million tons of black mud. So these are broad numbers, okay? But this is the target. So these are the broad major pulses in the season. But I must confess and I must mention that the production target of 19 million tons, to my mind, seems ambitious, and particularly for chickpea, 13.5 million tons. I think it's rather ambitious in my. Now, in the Rabi season, we plant the Rabi pulses in approximately 16 million hectares. Okay. There is no target for seeding. There's no acreage target. We only have production target. And therefore, there is no seeding target, but therefore growers decide how much acreage they must allocate for pulses, etc. And what do? They take into account market price trends, procurement efforts, and of course, farmers' own price expectation. All these actually play a role to influence the farmers' planting decision. Now, seeded area for chana in particular, because that's the largest crop in India, is close to 10 million hectares. Out of the 16 million hectares, chana itself accounts for 10 million hectares, and lentil or masoor accounts for about 1.5 million hectares. Now, you wanted the latest available acreage data. Now, the last available data is as of 29th of October. That's last week, last Friday. And I find a fairly healthy increase of 50% in the planted area as compared with this time last year. Okay. For example, the total area this year, as of 29th October, according to the Government of India, is 880,000 hectares. This compares with 590,000 hectares this time last year. And therefore, there is a fairly healthy expansion of area, increase in area. And this increase is primarily driven by 700,000 hectares for chana, okay, which was only 400,000 tons last year. Sorry. Whereas this year, at this point of time, it is about 700,000 tons. Now, area for other pulses is quite steady, and it's very similar to what we had this time last year. But I must mention, and I must even caution that these are early days. These are very early trends, and I would not read too much into these numbers. Okay, that's important because we still have a long way to go. We have to reach 16 million hectares, and then we are even today less than 1 million hectares in terms of the numbers available. So there's still a long way to go, and I am hoping when we meet early December next month, probably there'll be a lot more clarity and a lot more information, more updated information available as far as Rabi seeding area is concerned.
Chandra, I wanted to do a follow-up here because you mentioned that the production target for lentils has not yet been defined. We talked about this last month too, is also not defined. Why is that? Why is it not yet defined?
This is, I don't know, to be honest, I don't know, because I get information from the Agriculture Ministry, and they haven't fixed any target, because every year before the kharif planting, before the Rabi planting, there is always a meeting of the ministry of various state governments, and then the targets are announced. But this year, the overall target has been announced, chana target has been announced, and target for your black matri and moong is also announced, but there is no target announced for lentil, that is masoor. But I would assume that it should be 1.5.
Okay.
There's no specific reason. I don't know, but I don't think there is any specific reason for that.
Also, going back to what we talked about last month, and you mentioned that we were heading into a triple dip La Nina. Could you summarize the possible impacts this could have on India's Rabi season post-production?
Yeah, I mean, I track weather around the world very broadly, and then we know for sure that the world is indeed facing what is described as a triple dip La Nina. And you are there in Argentina, and I'm sure you know the situation in South America very, very, very broadly. Okay, fortunately for India, usually La Nina brings dry conditions in South America and excess wet conditions in South Asia. This is a normal pattern. But this year, fortunately, India has been spared spared the excess rains of La Niña. Yes, we did have extended monsoon beyond 30th September till about the 15th of October, but that has actually helped improve the soil conditions, and it is now fully withdrawn. Conditions have been good in the last 2 weeks. Conditions have been very favorable for planting of the Rabi crop. Soil moisture is quite satisfactory, in my opinion, except in the eastern region, where, if you recall, we discussed a couple of months ago, when we discussed the kharif crop, that UP, Bihar, West Bengal, Jharkhand, that eastern Indian belt continue to be dry. Otherwise, I think soil moisture conditions are quite good across India. Now, we need rains now in December and January, light showers, and we need benign temperatures in Jan and Feb. That will give a big boost to crop prospects. But I must also caution, we are also used to unseasonal rains and hailstorm in March and April. Therefore, that risk has to be taken on board, and that cannot be ruled out.
Okay, now in October, the government announced MSPs for Rabi season crops, and there was a big increase. I think the biggest went to lentils, right? Could you give us your thoughts on how you see MSPs impacting the sowing of pulses this Rabi season?
Yeah, chana, that is chickpea, gets a very nominal 2% hike in the minimum support price, and that's hiked to Indian rupees 5,335 rupees per 100 kilograms. That's the usual trading lot in India, and therefore it is 53,350 rupees per ton. Okay, in terms of ton. And when I look at today's exchange rate, it is approximately 650 US dollars. Okay, and India's currency is weakened substantially, as you know, in recent days. Lentil gets a fairly hefty 9% hike to 6,000 rupees per 100 kilos, which is 60,000 rupees a ton, which is about US dollars 730 per ton. Therefore, it is clear that the government is concerned over stagnating pulses production and large imports in the last 2 years, in 2000, 2001, 2002, yes, last 3 years. And therefore, government believes by raising the minimum support price that the farmers will plant more, and therefore our dependence on imports will reduce. Now, normal area for lentil that I have tracked is about 1.5 million hectares. But in my view, higher MSP is unlikely to influence the seeding decision, because many farmers in India are not even aware of what the MSP is. I keep talking to farmers in different regions and for different crops. Many of them are not even aware of the MSP. Therefore, I don't see the possibility of a higher MSP influencing seeding decision or production.
Okay, and how about other factors, right? Like the current market prices. I know some of them are below MSP right now. Import policies, you have the extension of the duty-free period for lentil imports through to March. How do you see grower interest in pulses this Rabi season in reaction to those kind of factors?
Yeah. As economists, we usually talk about supply response to prices. At higher prices, there'll be more production. That's the normal for supply response to price. But I have maintained, and for several years, that under Indian conditions, the supply response to prices is usually limited or not significant. It's only marginal, particularly with reference to Indian agriculture. Okay. Now, given this limited supply response to prices in India, and there is enough empirical evidence for that. Given this, the Indian pulse growers, in my view, seem to be less concerned about MSP or market prices or import policy or or these issues really. Most of them, I suspect, continue to grow what they have been growing for years.
Yeah.
And that makes policy making very, very tricky, very, very difficult. And it's quite challenging. And that is compounded by the new challenges of land constraint, water shortage, climate change, etc.
Okay, well, let's back up a bit now. Let's talk about new crop arrivals from the kharif season, right? New crop pulses. So last time we spoke, you anticipated there would be some quality issues because there was unfavorable weather. Can you tell us how the crop is, how these new arrivals are looking and how markets are responding?
As the harvest progresses, market arrivals have been picking up in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I find there are different grades and different price points currently for kharif pulses. And I also find a price differential between good quality crop and below the fair average quality crop. There is a difference. So something like grade 1 and grade 2 as an example. Now, Indian market, as we all know, is highly price conscious and price sensitive, and therefore there will be demand for goods at every price point. Lower the prices, there will certainly be more demand, and therefore kharif crop, there are quality variations and there are differentiated prices based on quality. Now, if you look at chana, which is being planted now, chana even now continues to rule below the minimum support price. But at the same time, a lot of imported material is also flowing into the market. We get pigeon pea, tuar arhar, and chana, of course, from Africa, Mozambique, Malawi, Sudan, Tanzania, etc. And we also get lentil or masoor from both Canada and Australia. For these imports are coming. And therefore, while pulses harvest is going on, arrivals are picking up, we are also getting imports, and therefore all that is interacting in the market.
Okay, and recently I enjoyed reading a column of yours that ran in the Hindu Business Line. You drive home a point of points you've made many times before, also when we've had our conversations here. And that's some of the points you made are about the pulse area hitting a saturation point, the need to improve yields in order to boost production, and the importance of increasing per capita pulse consumption in India. Now, are you finding that policymakers are receptive to these ideas?
Very, very, very interesting question, but I must certainly respond. I'm certain, and I'm aware actually, that policymakers take note of the inputs I provide and the observations I make, both in the print medium and on business television. Okay? And therefore, I know they take note of all. But to what extent there is enough will to work on it, act on it, is a very different question. Yes, they are receptive, but from the implementation perspective, there are challenges. I'll talk about that. In fact, a few months ago, when was it? It was in May, June, that I provided a comprehensive policy prescription for both pulses and oilseed sectors in India. And I took an ecosystem approach because the agriculture ministry looks at only production. And my view is it can't be production centric. It has to be an ecosystem approach covering processing, consumption, distribution, trade, etc., etc. Therefore, but I have found often in my interaction that the government and the bureaucrats are more and more obsessed with production. Whereas I have been pushing for an increased focus not only on production. Production is important, not only on production and quality of production, but also post-production activities, including processing and consumption, trade, etc. I suspect even today, a very comprehensive approach is lacking, possibly because within the Indian government of India, there are 3 or 4 ministries which are involved in making a policy for, say, pulses or oil seeds. You have the agriculture ministry, you have the food ministry, you have the commerce ministry, you have the finance ministry, and they're all, in my view, kind of working in silos. Okay, and that uh, actually means that these ministries have to come together and take a holistic view, a comprehensive view, which is what I try and provide whenever it's possible. So I believe that we have to, in India, we have to creatively disrupt the status quo. And I've given strategies of how to creatively disrupt the status quo. But if we don't do it, then I suspect India runs the risk of moving farther and farther away from self-sufficiency, particularly in oilseeds and oils, as well as pulses over the medium term.
That's very interesting, Chandra. And we're always so grateful to you for sharing your insights and your expertise with you. Thank you again for your time this month. We look forward to speaking with you again next month. So until then, my friend, take care and stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dario. It's such a pleasure always to talk to you. Let's stay in touch. And then obviously our conversation goes to all the members of GPC, and I hope they find value. Therefore, let's keep this conversation going. Early December, hopefully we should meet, and the acreage numbers will probably be a lot more current at that time, and we can take a view, we can discuss and take it. Till then, okay, good luck. God bless you all. Take care.